I'm going to introduce myself. We're from group 9, and
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a presentation on the interview. So, should I, what should I call you? Miss Becca? Or what do
Yeah,
you
that's
like?
fine.
Miss Becca?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, Miss Becca. Uh, I would like to ask you from your opinion, what is architecture in your opinion? From
Well,
like,
I
uh,
still stick with the classical definition of architecture, which is the art and science of building. And from there, that governs my thought and all of my ideologies with regards to architecture. So it can't be completely art, and at the same time, it can't be completely science. But, at the end of the day, since you're designing for humans and you're designing for aesthetics as well, so I think it's the best definition that um I think is the best definition of architecture up to this day.
I
So
see.
what year are you in?
Uh, what year?
And it's our first year.
I think it's our
Ah,
like
okay.
first.
So it's
We're
your
we're
first
in
year,
our
and
first semester. It's
is this your first semester in your first year?
yes, it is.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
so if it's okay, can I ask how old you guys are?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm 18 years old.
I
Okay.
just turned 19.
All right.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
reason why I asked is because I'm also a professor in school in the College of Architecture. Well, the
Oh,
School of Architecture. So that's precisely the reason I asked so that I could gauge the level of the
I see.
explanation I have
Yeah,
to give you. All right.
yeah, we're pretty new here, so like, it's. I mean, I don't know.
It's okay. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
I'm sorry. Next question is, what is your thoughts on architecture as a profession, like overall?
Um, well, I let's put it this way, all right? I'm the type of person who likes to stick to uh tradition. So I still, see architecture like I have said earlier, it's a combination of art and science. And the difference is I am I am aware that the profession of architecture is very broad. So when you become an architect, you are not limited to designing.
Hmm.
From from being an architect, you can go to many things. Like for example, you can go into building science, you can be an environmental planner, you can focus on architectural interiors,
Hmm.
you can go to school, you can be a product developer. So really there is a broad spectrum of things that you can do once you become an architect.
That's
So you can
interesting.
be you can be a facilities manager, you can be a teacher like I am, you can
Mhm.
be uh you can be into product development, you can be in acoustics, you can be in industrial design, you can be in movie and TV set production. So there's really a huge spectrum of things that you can do when you become
Wow.
an architect. So it's really important for you to know your focus as early as you are in school.
I understand, yes. That's really interesting. Like I never like thought it would be like for TV, for like other things as well.
Well,
Like,
I'll share something with you. So I have, a colleague who got
mhm,
married to a fashion photographer. So aside from doing design, as what the usual architect does, he
mhm.
opened a business, and that business is into set design for the photo shoots of his
Oh,
wife. So can you, well, if you look at it, it does really make sense because architecture has, an understanding of interiors,
Mm-hmm.
construction.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what you need, because usually for photo shoots, there are many times wherein you have to really make backdrops and sceneries
Oh
from
yeah.
scratch. So it's not always, just going to places. Many, especially for commercial photo shoots, you have to devise a set. So that became one of his businesses as an architect.
Oh, that's interesting, right? Yeah. I never like have thought of that. I thought like architecture is more like, make houses, make buildings and such. I
Yes,
think,
because
yeah.
that's the classical definition of being being a professional architect.
Mm,
And even if do you have board exams in Indonesia?
word exams?
Yes, here in the Philippines, before you can practice architecture, you need to
Hmm.
pass the licensure exam, which is regulated by the government.
Oh, I think we
So
have
you
one. Yeah.
so you can't just graduate from architecture then practice.
Oh,
You cannot sign and seal plans if you are not licensed by the government. So if you look at the board exams, the questions in the board exam, it
mm,
really pertains to the classical architecture profession, which you have to know these basic things for the government to allow you to practice. But really, when you go outside school and you go outside your board exam,
mhm.
the environment is really different and the practice is also really different. You can
Oh,
actually even go to building information management, which is BIM. You can go
oh,
into
BIM.
sustainability, etc. So there's really, a lot of things that you can do once you become an architect.
Yeah. I think like, well, like generally people think of it as like that, but like people haven't thought of the broad spectrum of it yet. Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Yes. Can we proceed to the next
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Uh, okay. I think this is like very basic, but I don't know. Like I have, what do you call it? I'm in my first year, so it's like, it's kind of, I have this adjusting part and stuff. Like I need my motivation, like do you have like do you have a motivation to be an architect? Like what's your motivation to become an architect?
Well, honestly, my story is like this, okay? So I came from a science high school, meaning as we are different from a usual or a regular high school. First, uh, uh we have two curriculums. So there's a technology-based curriculum and we have a special science curriculum. So I'm under the special science curriculum. And the focus of our curriculum is to go into the different sciences like chemistry, biology,
Mm,
anything about science, while the technology curriculum is geared towards engineering. Okay?
mhm.
So in our curriculum, we have an additional math and additional science subject every year on top of the usual, regular high school student. So that means we have
Yeah,
to work harder.
yeah.
And of
Mhm.
course, because we have additional subjects, we are also advanced compared to the other regular high school. So that compounded with the fact that as a child, I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh, a doctor?
Yes, a doctor. So one of the things that I did consider when going to college was to become a doctor.
Mhm.
So the thing is, in the Philippines, you have to take entrance examinations before you can enter a university.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, well, it's really a funny story. I'm not saying that it's an inspiring story, but it's a funny story. So when I took examinations in the top four universities in the
Oh,
Philippines,
top four? Wow.
I had different options.
Hmm.
So from the University of the Philippines, which is the top school, my first choice was architecture, second was civil engineering. Then I didn't choose a second campus. We have
Oh.
many campuses all over the Philippines, but
Mm-hmm.
I only chose one campus. So it's like it's now or never. It's either I pass architecture or I study elsewhere because the other
Yes.
campuses are located out of Metro Manila. It's in the provinces. It's regional campuses. So
Oh,
in
I
the
see.
second university, which is Ateneo, I
Mm-hmm.
took everything that has something to do with pre-law.
Really?
So yeah, because if I pass that university, I'm definitely going to take law to be a lawyer because
Oh,
I also
yeah.
wanted to be a lawyer.
Oh, you wanted to be a lawyer too? Wow.
Yeah. On the third university, which is the University of Santo Tomas,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a very good medical program, I applied for physical therapy and accountancy because accountancy can be a pre-law course, and of
Mm-hmm.
course the first choice is physical therapy, which is a good pre-medical course.
Mm-hmm.
Then finally, the last was De La Salle University, and my first choice was human bio, which is a program where you can finish the entire medical course from pre-med to med proper in 6 years instead of
Whoa.
8 years. Then my second choice there was accountancy.
Accounts.
So
Yeah.
so I waited because during the time everything was not as digitized as it is right now. So it takes many months for the results to come out. Unlike
Yeah.
now, you can get the results in a matter of days because it's the computer who does the tallying of the check test papers, right?
Yes.
So I was lucky enough to pass all of the universities,
Wow.
but I was so annoyed that in the University of Santo Tomas, I had to pay a fee to get
Mm-hmm.
interviewed for the course. But I
Mm-hmm.
already passed the course. And the thing is, the University of the Philippines is the top school in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
So since I passed architecture, I took architecture.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is what's funny. That course was suggested to me by my father. I
Oh.
never thought, I never planned to be an architect. But when I was young,
Mm-hmm.
meaning around, 8 years old onwards, I had the
Mm-hmm.
tendency to look at building and criticize buildings.
Oh.
But I never thought to be an architect. And I also kind of have an eye for design.
Oh, you do?
And yeah, and in high school, I kind of excelled in the drafting classes.
Oh.
So we have, an industrial arts class, I think first or second year, and I really did enjoy drafting, like isometrics, calligraphy,
Oh,
lettering.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, but I didn't, really saw myself as an architect. I didn't even think of the profession. It was just by fate that I became an architect.
Ah, I see, I
Yeah,
see.
but it did not end there. It
Is it
didn't
in
end
there?
there.
Oh,
It didn't end there.
okay.
So when I was in freshman, it was
Mm-hmm.
a very competitive school. Well, if it's a top one school, it's definitely a
Yeah, of course
competitive
it's
school, right?
competitive. Yeah.
And when I look at my classmates, I really paled in comparison in terms of hand skills, in
Thanks. To-
drawing, in drafting,
Oh.
in freehand sketching. Like my classmates were drawing like it was so easy, and while I was having a hard time drawing very nice drawings. So, and add to that, the school had a very stringent math subject. So it
Mm-hmm.
was really hard. So that discouraged me. I decided to stop taking major subjects by the second sem. Well, when I was in college, there are only 2 semesters and one summer class, which is optional.
Oh,
So
it's optional.
basically, yeah. So there are basically 2 major semesters in a year. So
Mm-hmm.
come the second semester, I stopped taking all of the major exams, and I already told the dean that I didn't want to pursue architecture anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, because I really got discouraged. It was so tired,
yeah.
barely slept, and it didn't come easy.
Yeah, I understand.
It didn't come easy.
Mm-hmm.
I
Interesting.
mean, yeah, the things that I tell you, this is really real talk. I'm not trying to, make it sound like a glamorous thing, or I'm not trying to make it sound good just for the sake of the podcast or
Oh.
the students, right? This is
Yes.
really real talk, all right? So, uh, uh, so the dean asked me, where are you going if you get out of the College of Architecture? So I said, I want to be a lawyer, so I'm going to shift into the College of Economics.
Mm.
Okay, so every enrollment, we see each other because uh I'm some sort of an irregular student because I left my block. I stopped taking my major. So if you miss one major subject, you already lose 1 year. You are delayed by a year in college.
Really?
Yes, we have it's a 5 year course here in the Philippines, and
Mhm,
every semester is really, really full. Like if you compare it to the other courses
mhm,
across different colleges in the campus, they only have like 18 units, like a full sem. We
mhm.
have 22 units, so it was
Oh.
really hard.
Uh-huh.
So every semester, the dean and I talk one on one. Then finally said, Becca, this is not to discourage you from what you want to do, but the thing is, when you become a lawyer, you will keep on lying.
Mm.
Then that thing stuck to my head because I don't want also to live that kind of life wherein you make alibis just to win a case, right?
Yeah.
That's the well, let's face it,
Right.
that's a job. That's a job of a lawyer.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
part
it's
of the
pretty much
job
it.
that
Yeah.
you have to maneuver things, and even to the extent of maneuvering facts in favor of your client to win the case. That's a
Mhm.
fact. I mean,
Yeah.
we're not shaming the profession, but that's a fact. That's a known fact. So I thought of it. Then I said, I don't think that kind of life is for me. As much as you want to be a noble person and try to defend those who are injustice,
Yeah.
or those who are discriminated and stuff like that, but that's the ideal part of it.
Mhm.
But life is not like that. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
far than that.
yeah, it's far from that. So after
Yeah.
a year, I came back to architecture, so I continued
Oh.
taking my subjects, and the rest is
Oh.
history, I guess. So my the path towards the architecture profession for me was not a straight path. It was
Mm.
definitely a lot of roller coaster rides,
Mhm. Yeah.
before I finally got to be an architect. And after graduating, the law requires those who will apply for the licensure to have at least 2 years of apprenticeship.
Oh, yeah.
So most of my batchmates or contemporaries, they take the exam really right after 2 years.
Oh,
In my case, I continued working, so I took it after 4 years.
4 years.
For
Yes,
you.
after 4 years.
Wow.
But it wasn't that bad because um when I entered college, I was only 16 years old.
Oh, 16?
Wow.
Yes.
That's really young.
So I was, well, aside from the fact that during my time, we don't
Mhm.
have the K to 12 system in grade school and high school. So I didn't go to senior high school. I
Oh,
just had 6 years of grade school, 4 years of high school. That's it. Aside
four
from that
years.
fact, yes, I was accelerated by a year. That's why I'm younger than my batchmates.
Wow.
So instead of going to college at 17, I went to college at 16. So it wasn't really a bad thing for me because I started early. So even
Hmm.
if I took the board exams quite late, I was still young that time.
Yeah, it was
I
still
wasn't
young.
old yet.
That's impressive, though.
And again, there's always something funny about me. So after I took the board exams,
Hmm.
I became a lecturer in that same review center where I took my review for the board exams.
Really?
So yeah,
Wow.
so my classmates were teasing me that they wanted to sit in my classes because they
Mhm.
would tease me about it, that someone, like a funny person like me, would be there teaching seriously a year,
Oh,
right after passing the board exam.
yeah.
So So there, that's how I became an architect.
Yeah, that's really fun. That's great. Do you enjoy it?
Well, okay, let me put this in perspective. So during that time, yes, I enjoyed it to the point that I
Mhm.
took my master's immediately after,
Oh,
and
wow.
I wanted to finish my PhD, but life got in the way. So
Mhm.
I stopped my graduate studies, and it is only 2 terms ago that I started teaching in college.
Oh, two terms.
Yeah, so after this, well, in the school that I teach, we have 3 terms. It's not semestral. It's 3 terms. It's trimester per year. So I'm
Oh,
on my third term this year. So it's not yet a year since I started
teach.
teaching in college.
Oh, that's really cool. Interesting story.
I don't think it will be the same as the other architects that your classmates have interviewed.
Yeah, I think you're more funny though.
More too.
hmm Yeah. So, is your parents like, are you really going to architect, not doctor, and stuff like that, or like they're just like you do you type of thing?
All of my relatives were expecting me to become a doctor or a lawyer.
Uh-huh. What's
But
the like? What do you call it?
yeah,
Like,
because even as a child, they saw me being in those professions.
Mhm.
But I don't know. Sometimes, well, the thing is, I believe in fate. Like people would say, you are the master of your life. Oh yes, yes. But life has a way of guiding you somewhere else. So you need to learn to swim with the tide.
mm.
Wherever you are planted, you still have to know how to bloom. So if you are guided in that way, then there's no harm in giving a try.
Were they surprised?
Well, my dad, of course, he suggested it, so he wasn't surprised. My mom was like, "Oh, okay. If you want that, then it's okay."
Oh, that's really funny. Okay, can we go to the next question?
Yeah, sure.
Um, let's see. How and what time did you determine that architecture was like the right fit for you? And do you have like any doubts?
It comes, once in a while, it does come to me when I was younger. Like, is this really what I want to do? Because, I'm the type of person who has very varied interests.
Mm,
So sometimes when I was younger, but not anymore, uh
still young.
there's some, but again, remember I told you that when you go into architecture, there's really, a huge playing field. You can go to many things.
Mhm.
So that explains why a year or two after I graduated from college, I took my master's immediately. And my master is not in architecture, my master is in urban and regional planning.
Mm,
So well, to put it in perspective, in the Philippines, the discipline or licensure for environmental planning is different from architecture. You need to take another set of board exams and studying for you to be an environmental planner. And one of the course top courses that can lead you to that discipline is to take your master's in urban and regional planning or environmental science or planning and so forth and so on, because different universities have different names for it.
mhm,
So I took my master's where I graduated college from,
mhm.
and I was so into it that I finished all of my subjects in 3 semesters. And
Whoa.
what was left was, and I was working full time then. So
You
when
were?
it's yeah, so when it was finals week, I only
Mhm.
sleep every other night because I have so many papers to write, and yet I have to go to work and work
Work,
full
yeah.
time.
Full
I work
time.
8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then I have to go to school in the evening. And if it's finals week, you have to do everything and write your papers, because when you're in graduate school,
Mhm.
you really need to do a lot of writing. It's not, like college, that you have watercolor class or what. It's really
Yeah.
higher learning.
Mm.
So after that, so my thesis was left. I kept on taking subjects that I didn't need anymore. Like for example, I took a subject on transport planning, on real estate planning, etc., etc. I think I have 4 to 5 extra subjects, and I just
Oh,
took it for the heck of it.
just
Yeah, because the thing is, when you're, well, I was still young then. I was in my mid 20s when that happened,
Mhm.
and I'm 42 now, so that was a long time ago.
Oh, you look young.
Yeah.
It maybe it's the rice that we have been eating because we're Southeast Asians.
Oh, yeah.
So, um, so I took these subjects because when you're older, you see school as something that you want to learn from rather than being a finish line. When you're college, you just want to get it
Yeah,
done and
just
over with,
just
graduate,
finish it.
take your
Yeah.
licensure exams, go to work, earn money.
Yeah.
But for me, entering graduate school, my objective really was not for the diploma, but to learn.
Mm.
So, well, I was in my 20s at the time. I wonder why I was a bit mature already. But so I took that, and I was looking forward to taking my PhD and finishing it right before I
Mhm.
turned 30, because I really wanted to be a professor.
Oh.
But things got in the way. I had to work more,
Mhm.
and I lost my focus in school until the time that I had to leave school for quite some time.
Really?
Well, I left school, period. I already stopped studying. But I already got my diploma in urban regional planning. But it's just that I haven't done my PhD anymore. I haven't gotten back to it.
Mm.
So there. That's what
Yeah.
happened. So with that, as you can see, when you look at the title urban regional planning, what does it have to do with architecture, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is, architects are the most qualified professionals for physical planning. And when
Mm.
I say physical planning in terms of environmental planning, this pertains to policies and translating those policies into physical planning. So like if you do it in a level of like the city or the province or the regions or even the whole country, you put your talents in physical planning into environmental planning by translating the policies that you create for people. So for
Mm.
example, in the case say of a city, in our cities here in the Philippines, we have two types of plans, the CDP or the Comprehensive Development Plan and
Mhm.
the CLUP or the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. So land use plan is the physical translation of your CDP, your development plans. And the
I see.
CDP is done multi-sectoral. So you look at socio-economic,
Mhm.
geography, uh, other physical aspects like geography, geology,
Oh,
climate.
yeah. Very.
You look at the flow of money coming into and coming out of cities.
Mhm.
You look at the problems, what the cities have. So you synthesize everything and you make a comprehensive development plan. And that type of plan is a legal document, and that's the implementing instrument of cities and municipalities.
Oh.
So as an architect, our role is to become physical planners. So you have these plans of development. What you do is you translate it into the map,
Mhm.
and you have to zone things. Where are the industrial areas? Where are the commercial areas? Where are the agricultural areas? What are the areas of expansion? Where are the human settlements? So the competency for such type of work,
Yeah.
those are the competencies of the architect, because the architect knows a lot about designing for people. So
Mm-hmm.
if you compare our course with civil engineers and other built environment professionals, you would see that uh, our course has largely have something to do with designing for people. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really our core competency as architects. So that has been one of my career paths as an architect, to become a planner.
Oh, I see, I see. A career planner. Wait. Oh, wow. That's a lot of information. That's
Really?
Well, yeah.
yeah, that's really new to me. Like I'm in my
Uh,
first year. I don't know like much of it. Then like
yeah.
it's really new for me, you know? It's really interesting, yeah.
Because you come to school thinking that you want to be someone who builds things or
Mm,
design things or draws things.
yeah. Every design have its own complexities. Like which one of your said projects is the more high intricacy?
Um, okay. In terms of considerations for design,
Mm-hmm.
we underwent a project wherein we had to sign a non-disclosure agreement
Oh.
because the site, the that structure is a house
Mm-hmm.
that houses children who were rescued from sexual exploitation.
Mm.
Oh.
So a lot of these kids have psychological problems as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of design considerations that are, that's not the same as a normal house.
Mm-hmm.
So it should look like a house, but yet it should function as a facility for these children. So in
Oh.
terms of design consideration and sensitivity, I think that's the most. In terms of technology, uh, okay, if we're talking about structures,
Mm-hmm.
I think for me it's the school,
Oh, the school.
because yeah, because we also try to incorporate recycled water
Oh, recycled
and
water.
water recycling. So we have rainwater harvesting, and you
Ah.
have to consider, because you cannot mix the line of the potable water with recycled water, even if it's for flushing of toilets or cleaning. So it has more sanitary engineering considerations than a usual
Mm.
building. And at the same time, that project is located in a heritage area, so you cannot do anything that you want. It's
Mm.
protected by the government.
Oh, it is. Wow.
It is, because it's a declared heritage or national heritage site.
Mm.
So you have to deal with government agencies coming in, giving restrictions. Although
Mm.
the project itself is not really hard per se.
More like the legal stuff.
Yeah. Actually, I'm a small time architect. I don't know I don't know
Oh.
why I don't know why Desta has even chosen me, but to tell you frankly, I'm not the type of architect who builds, huge projects. I
Mm.
have a very small, humble practice.
I
Oh,
see.
I see.
So,
That's really
some architects, they are what we call the star architects,
start
meaning they
text.
are well publicized, they join competitions and stuff. I have a
Mm.
very humble practice. That's what I can say.
That's really cool. I appreciate it. Uh, I think the next questions will be asked by my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Tina? Okay. In this architectural world, we are often faced with many challenges. What are some of the most difficult obstacles you have faced in this world of profession, and how did you overcome them?
Honestly, the largest obstacle that we have in our profession are the people. It's not the structure.
Yeah.
Because my thinking is all of the architectural problems have architectural solutions. So if you need soundproofing, you have it. If you need structural waterproofing, you have it. But the people who have an attitude, they're the most difficult problems that you will encounter in your profession. Like for example, when I was a young architect, I did a lot of construction. And my biggest headache was not really the supply or the materials. It's really the construction worker who, number one, they take their time to finish because they want to have more salary, longer work hours, more money, or
Mm-hmm.
they will not understand your design. They don't know how to read plans. Or they are hard-headed because they think they are so old that they know more than you if you're a young female architect in the profession. So they would at some point look down at you because you cannot remove that, especially if you're a female young architect
Mm-hmm.
and you have this site that are all old men or middle-aged men. They
Yeah.
would definitely look down at you and say, why is this girl bossing us around here?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's
that's one
good.
of the it's the people actually that's most challenging, not the design, not the technology. It's
Mm.
really people. Second is if we have a site, especially in our place, we have a very long rainy season. You have
Oh.
to schedule your construction so that when you dig up your foundation footings,
Mm-hmm.
they will not go inside with the rainy season because you will have a huge time trying to pump the water out of the
Oh yeah.
excavation.
I think I've seen some.
Yeah, that happened to me in the school. The project
Oh
got
yeah.
delayed, then it rained so hard. It literally became a swimming pool. They had to get a pump to pump out all of the water.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Can't imagine the time to do that.
And the expense, of course, and the
Yeah, of course.
manpower.
Uh-huh. How long did it delay?
Well, the reason why it was delayed because it was a national system, so they have layers of approval.
Mm-hmm.
So if it doesn't get approved with the bosses, you cannot implement it just like that.
Oh, I see, I see.
So it again boils down to people.
Yeah, the clients.
Okay. For the next question, in regards to creative block and time management issues, how do you, as an experienced architect, deal with being stumped and exhausted? And what approaches have you taken into establishing priorities and decisions? Is there any tips or suggestions you would like to share with those who are pursuing architecture?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, architecture is both art and science. And architects, most of the time, we are artists. So it's inevitable that you have moods. You're
Mm-hmm.
not always in the mood to design.
Yeah.
Seldom will you hear someone who is 24/7 in the mood to design. Okay, we have moods.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, the reality of the situation, you have deadlines to meet. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this
Mm-hmm.
is this is my piece of advice for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, go to a profession that you really like. Go to a profession that you really like. If you're
Mm-hmm.
forcing yourself to become an architect, don't do it. Why? Because if you keep on staying in a profession that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. It
Yes.
means you will
I
keep on enjoying what you want to do. So that's number one. If you go to architecture, it's not an easy course. You have
Yes.
to have the passion for it. And you
I
have
see.
and if you're passionate about it, you put in the work. So that's what I'm telling my students. Because when I look at my students, there are people who you foresee are passionate about architecture.
Mhm.
There are students who come to class for compliance. And if you see at the output, the students who are passionate in architecture, even if they are not the best artists, you would see that their product is towards excellence. While people who are forcing themselves to be there for compliance, you would see their work, they are mediocre.
Mm.
So my number one advice, on top of everything, choose a profession that you are passionate about, or else you're not going to last. It's a really a hard profession. Second, so you're an architect and sometimes you get tired. When I was young, because when you're young, you keep on chasing your career, you keep on
Mhm.
chasing money and stuff like that, that you forget about your health, your happiness, your peace of mind. So
Yes.
now, if I see that the client is so annoying and hard to talk to, I don't accept the project. I decline it. Why?
Mm.
Because the money will never be worth your peace of mind.
Yeah, I understand.
So say they pay you 100,000, 200,000 pesos.
Mhm.
But looking at the project, looking at the difficulty of the client, looking say at the difficulty of the construction situation, you have to weigh it. Is it worth your effort and your happiness? Is 200,000 the cost of those things? Or are you willing to take in the project? So you have to weigh things because at the end of the day, a good life is a balanced life. Anything in excess is bad. Too much rest is bad. Too much work is bad. Too much family time is bad. No family time is bad. You see, Buddha says you follow the middle path. When you come to analyze it, yes, it's true. Because too much of anything is bad. And you need to love yourself. Why? If you just live a life of just making your employer happy,
Yes.
you forget your dreams. So, if you say you have a mistake, the employer can easily just say, I'll terminate you from work. So if you just focus on work, 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 you forget about your family, your happiness, your health, where does that put you? It puts you
Nowhere.
nowhere. That's why you
Yeah,
have to love yourself.
that's
So
great.
even if there's a lot of projects and you can accept it because it's offered to you, but if you look at yourself and see, I'm not going to sleep for 2 weeks just to finish this amount of project. Do you think it's worth it? It's not going to be worth it. Landing on the hospital is never worth it. All of the money that you earn, you're just going to spend it to be happy. First, you spend on doctors, hospital, and medicine. Second, you're so stressed, you want to go stress shopping. You go
Mhm.
stress eating.
Yes.
Where did your money go? Did you earn the money? No, you just have to spend it because you need to be happy after your stress, right?
Yeah.
That's what I can say as an old person.
That's a great advice.
Okay. Next. What is your way of dealing with competitors? Do you struggle to be different or better?
Okay, I live in a country where we have an excess of architects. There are 50,000 architects in a population of 110 million.
Yes.
So, that's our way of life. Our way of life in the Philippines is competition. Okay, my number one advice, don't try, don't put in your mind that it's the competition that you're looking at. That's why you want to excel. what you want to do is look at yourself and compete with yourself and try to be the best version of yourself, because if you are a good architect, you serve people better. If you study well, you become a good architect for your society and your community. So you look at yourself and try to improve yourself, not because you have a competitor, but because you want to be the best version of yourself. So that's my number one advice. Okay, if you want to look at your competitor, what do you think would be your advantage? Number one, your advantage is your passion for what you do. And number two, because you're so passionate about you are very good in what you do. So, it all again boils down to making yourself excellent rather than looking others just because they're doing this. You want to compete, compete, compete.
Yes.
The number one objective really is you have to be an excellent architect, not because you want to compete, but because you want to be a good architect, build good buildings that will be good for people. All right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Next. Um, what architectural ability you possess that set you apart from others working on the same field? And if there was one thing within your skill set that you might want to improve, what would it be?
Okay. The first thing I'm going to answer is what skill set that I want to improve for myself. That skill set is being good with technology, because I'm not good in technology. Actually, in our firm, we have different roles. So I have a partner who's good in this, good in drafting, good in design. My focus actually is more on marketing, dealing with clients,
Oh,
and interiors and sustainability. So that's my number one objective. My goal is to be good with technology, because I think that's one thing that's lacking about me. The
mm,
thing
Yes.
is, when you group with people, you have to group with diverse talents. Because, if one is good at this, another is good at this, when you put all of those guys together, you make a dream team.
mm-hmm,
So you can be in a group that all of you are just good in drafting. No one knows about sustainability. No one knows about client relationships, right?
mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's my uh that's my ability, I think. I'm quite good with connecting with people, and because I wanted to be a teacher, and because of my exposure also to my national duties in my professional organization, before I was really shy. I couldn't speak extemporaneously. I get nervous when I present in an audience.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, being in a professional organization is actually good, because it develops your personality and how you deal with people. And it came
Yeah.
to the point that I had some opportunities to talk in different countries. So I was a speaker in Nepal, in Singapore last year.
Okay.
So in Tokyo, in Malaysia. So it's quite a good experience that you get to develop yourself in your organization and in your profession.
Okay. Next. In an architectural project, there is a division of task. What part do you excel in the most and why?
Okay, just recently we had documented an embassy, and my focus is interiors and building science. So
Wow.
that's my core skills. While the others, they focus on measurements, documentation, etc. Then we had to present it to, the ambassador. So because I'm quite good in public speaking, so I was also on top of that.
Wow. Amazing. Okay.
switch it.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. Hi. Okay. So this is my turn to ask the question. Wait, can anyone hear me? I think it's
Mhm.
okay. All right.
You're
So
clear.
and that I would like to ask you is in the project, how do you approach a project in wait, okay, in order to understand a client's needs and integrate between functional and aesthetical elements?
All right. The thing is, when you're an architect, these things come naturally. It's part of your training. So first you ask, uh, what it's natural for you to be able to understand your client to ask certain questions. At first, you would ask, what do you want this building to be? What are your non-negotiable space requirements? Are you open to technology? Or what are your other aspirations? Are we trying to hit some certain things? So, asking those type of questions, they are part and parcel of your nature as an architect. So it's really natural for you, like if you're an architect, it's really natural for you to ask particular questions because those questions would help you understand. The thing is, when you deal with clients, even if you say if architects are some sort of technocrats, you still, have to approach them always with a listening ear rather than being there and being an know-all. It's about them. It's not about you. So that's how a client usually no, an architect usually approach a client. And with our training, as I said, we are comprehensively trained in many, many aspects. So when I talk to my students, I tell them, when you look at design, there's a design brief, there are requirements, but space is not the only thing that you have considered. Automatically, when you look at spaces, it's always multifaceted that you would think about, say, for example, a kitchen. It's nice, to have this kind of thing for the kitchen, but as an architect, you're the technocrat, so you already know that there's a certain layout which is best suitable for working in a kitchen. You have particular drainage systems, you have a grease trap, you have lighting, etc., etc. So that's part of our training. It comes naturally. You don't have to think hard. It when you would understand it when you're an architect that it's second nature for you. It's like when you eat, you didn't have to learn to eat, right? It comes natural to you that you have, say, use your hands or your spoon and fork,
Mhm.
eat from a plate. So it's like that. When you are trained to be an architect, everything comes naturally. You cannot disregard one thing. For example, you design a bathroom. It can be beautiful, but of course, it's something that you have to drain water from. You have to protect the other parts from being too wet, etc., etc. So it it's second nature for you to automatically think of it without even trying to consciously think of it. That's how I feel as an architect. I never had to say, uh, I forgot to put this because I did not consider it. It's always like if you put anything that you put inside that, there's a function to it. And even when I tell my students, all of the lines that you draw into paper, it means something. You cannot draw any line without it having no significance at all. So, there are other students, they thought that they keep, drawing all of these lines and they think it would make the Thorpen look professional. But honestly, it's not because it causes confusion. If you bring those plans to site, the other engineers or the builders will not understand you because you keep on putting things that are not necessary or insignificant. The thing is, when you do a set of working drawings, it's a legal instrument. So anything you put there, you can be legally liable if it's not true or it's, malfunctioning. Do you understand?
Yes. Right. So the next question is, what is your take on sustainable architecture?
Okay, even if sustainability was not a thing, all right, I have always this natural tendency to design in a manner like, why do you need to put so many lights when you can harness the sunlight? We have plenty of sunlight in our part of the world. Or uh why do you have to design in that manner when it can be more energy efficient? So as an architect, those are practical things. They are not rocket science. Sustainability is not really rocket science. It's designing for the planet, it's designing for people. So for me, sustainability is part and parcel of anything that you design as an architect. It's something that should come to you naturally. It's not like, a set of guidelines you just want to meet for the sake of certification. So that's my take about sustainability. And the thing with sustainability, if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, it's a lot of facets, and there are only a number that is directly related to physical planning or architecture per se. My take about sustainability is you have to understand it because there are a lot of people who greenwash or they keep on putting elements without understanding the effect of it on the entirety of the project. So for me, an architect should always be well versed with green architecture and sustainable design.
Got it. All right. So next question is, how do you approach sustainability in a design project? Like, what concrete steps have you taken into incorporating sustainability elements into set projects?
Okay, just like I said earlier, I recently finished the training in Edge. And with that, it has opened, my eyes more on what steps I have to do to truly design in a sustainable manner. And at the same time, because of the experience of documenting the embassy I have mentioned, we came to the point that we even documented the amount of light, the amount of noise, the amount of relative humidity, etc. So it's a very scientific approach when it comes to the documentation. It's not just mere measuring the building and doing an as-built. So with this, you would understand there are certain points of focus that you have to do if you approach any of your design in a scientific manner. So say, I keep on telling my students, the most amount of light would occur on the site on areas nearest the glazings or the fenestration or windows. So if you receive so much daylight in these areas, why are you putting the same amount of light or opening that same light compared to the inner parts of the building where it receives less light? So why don't you design in a manner that during the day, you don't open the lights nearest the windows and only open it on the areas that needs particular lighting? So if you don't design in a scientific manner, you don't know how to quantify all of your steps. And for example, in an office setting, if you don't understand the threshold, the number of decibels that is recommended for work areas, and you don't have an understanding, say, of the ASHRAE standards or the EU standards, because there are certain parameters like in other countries, it is your right to be exposed only to this amount of noise 8 hours a day. If you go beyond that, that is against your right as a worker. So if you don't understand those things, you don't design your buildings in a manner by which the acoustic comfort is on the normal level. And the same goes with lighting. For example, you're working. There are different types of lighting. But the thing is, there's a certain number of luminance level that is recommended for work areas. So if you don't understand that, how can you properly design the lighting of your spaces? So there are actually 4 indoor environment quality standards. So you have your acoustic comfort, thermal comfort, visual comfort, and the acoustic, thermal, visual, and indoor air quality, which is IAQ. That's not IEQ. IEQ is indoor environment quality, while IAQ is indoor air quality. So actually, again, if you look at the scientific data, if you don't know the amount of volatile compounds, the indoor pollutants, you don't understand how you're going to design your spaces and the rate of airflow that is necessary for it. And in terms of thermal comfort, the room cannot be so cold or too hot. So anything in excess is bad. And if there is an excess to it, this could lead to what we call the SBS, or the sick building syndrome. So that's one. In our culture, we like to use charcoal or wood in cooking. It's still in use. The thing is, it leads to sicknesses. Some people will think, I'm coughing for so many months. Why isn't it gone? Or there are houses that they keep on spraying, say, Lysol or Glade, those aerosol sprays. They keep on spraying inside. They thought it would improve the smell of the air. But really, it increases the amount of volatile compounds, which is bad for the health of humans. So the best quality of air really is the air that is constantly changed. And honestly, if you go outside, the concentration of VOCs is much lower compared to the interiors of houses or buildings. So if you are not able to have a good air exchange rate inside, the people would be always exposed to pollutants, and that's not good for the health. It can even affect pregnant women, people with comorbidities, etc. So that's the more scientific aspect of designing. It's not just, having nice paint or wallpaper, beautiful furniture, lighting that looks nice, but really you don't have an idea how much it illuminates a space. So those are things that an architect should educate themselves to be able to produce healthy and sustainable dwellings or buildings. That's too much information, right?
No, is that your answer?
Yeah, that's my answer.
Got it. So I think we're down to the last 2 questions. So we're very close to the end. What I want to ask you is, how do you think architecture could impact the world in a positive sense?
Okay. Do you know the architect Popadanes?
Hmm?
There's
Papa-
there's a really famous architect from Indonesia. His name is Popo.
Okay.
Okay, so he's really famous. He's from Bali. You can Google it. I'll send you the name. So this guy is a good friend of mine. He's a multi-awarded architect from Indonesia. So I was saying, Papa, your projects are really good. And he say, I don't design for beauty, I design for the site and the people. So what did I learn from that? When you design something that does not, as much as possible, hurt the planet. And when they say the planet, that includes the environment and the people in it. So when you design, you make architecture, it's always responsive to your environment and to people. And that's a motherhood statement. It can mean many things: climate responsiveness, sustainability, designing for the less fortunate, equality, justice. It embodies everything when I say that. So for me, that's how we should design as architects. We should design for the environment, for people, and we should not be designing things that hurts our planet more and more. Because if we keep on doing that, our future generations might not have any planet to live in anymore. So that I think is how we should think as an architect.
Okay, so this is the last question. We've discussed various aspects of your career. Is there anything else about your career, skills, or anything that you would like to highlight that we haven't yet discussed, but you think it is important for us to know?
Yeah, maybe I think we haven't discussed about how we work with other built environment professionals and collaboration. Here in the Philippines, we just recently the profession of architects just recently won a case against the civil engineers, because for a very long time there are certain scopes of the architecture profession that is encroached upon by the engineers. So finally, in the Supreme Court, we won that only architects can sign architectural plans and design. So this is my take. There are different built environment professionals that have to work hand in hand. When an architect designs a house, you need a civil or structural engineer to do the structural part. You have a master plumber or a sanitary engineer to do the sanitary work, and so on and so forth. So for me, my advice as an architect is we always have to maintain a good relationship with the different trades. And rather than, trying to fight and encroach into each other's profession, for me, we shouldn't be scared about collaboration. If you're an architect, say you have interior designer to do your interiors, or if there's a structural engineer, you give the structural part to him. Don't try to encroach on their trades. So that's one. And you know, for the old thinking is you have to be a jack of all trades. So it's not uncommon that you would hear an architect who is also a civil engineer at the same time, or a master plumber at the same time. For me, the way to go, especially in this age of artificial intelligence, you know, they can make good render, say Mid Journey. They could make better renders from architects. But the thing is, the amount of thinking and consideration which pertains to people, space planning, environment, building science, etc., is still the architect who can do that. It's not someone digital or artificially intelligent. It's still the architect who is the master of that. So having said that, as architects, we should try to educate and train ourselves to focus on certain competencies. So for example, if you're a doctor, the first step will be to be a general practitioner. But what would give you fulfillment and the money is being a person who specializes on something. So that's the reason when you look at cardiologists, urologists, children's medicine, they because they trained and focus in a particular niche, they're good at it. That's what brings them fulfillment and money.
Are you ready for
All
the
right.
next question?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Does being an architect impact your individuality in any way?
Well, like I said earlier, even as a young kid, I had the tendency to criticize buildings or look at things like I look at the ceiling, I look where the placement of the air conditioning is.
Oh.
And in my very young mind, I would criticize it like, why did they put it here? It could have been done better, etc., etc. So that was, my early semblance of being an architect. But as I mature as a person,
Mm-hmm.
this is one thing that, has always resonated with me. Architecture is not supposed to be only for the rich people.
Mm,
Architecture should be for everyone. So even if you're in the slums, even you are in a economically disadvantaged position, architecture should be for any human.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and we should stop, trying to make architecture just something that's glossy, something that's all about appearance. Architecture should be something that solves the problem of people, and it should be highly functional before it can be beautiful. Because being beautiful doesn't make sense if the person inside is very much uncomfortable in terms of
Yeah.
function, space planning, indoor environment quality. So that's my guiding principle. Architecture is made for people, and it's not a sculpture that you just have to display.
Cool. That's cool. I
Yes.
have the same thinking as you. Like,
Uh,
I think architect is like not just for rich people. Like, have you seen like middle class to lower class people like using the architect for like their houses and stuff, you know? Like I haven't seen like it
It's
lately.
actually hard because architects, you have to also ask for the proper professional fee, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, professional fee is relative to the scope of the project.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get a professional, and you only say get a construction worker or a foreman to implement your aspirations, that's how I want to call it. Because
Aspiration.
when people build, it's an aspiration. It's an
Mm-hmm.
aspiration for a beautiful house or a commercial building that brings in money,
Mm-hmm.
or a landmark in the city. So those are
yeah.
aspirations. And if you don't get a professional such as the architect and the corresponding engineers for the different trades, more often than not, it leads to more expenses, because if you just relegate it to a construction worker who is not trained for it, you will keep on
Yes.
getting mistakes, and they don't have a proper um training for space planning. And the reason why the practice of architecture is regulated, it's not because you want to comply to the government. It's the way of the government of regulating the profession to protect the people.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you're a doctor. There are many people who can graduate from the School of Medicine, for example. But you
Of
have to
course.
take the board exam, you have to take your internship, you have to take your fellowship. Why? It's because you are handling the life of people.
Yeah.
And if you're an architect and you build something, in our law, we have a 15-year um, responsibility. So
Mm-hmm.
your structure cannot collapse
Mm-hmm.
within those 15 years. And that's the point of the government. You take the licensure because we are granting you this opportunity or the privilege to build, but it is not protect you as a professional, but to protect the people who is going to use the structures that you build.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I think it endangers more people if like the architect is like, not professional at its work and the building
Sure.
could be highly dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I'll share you something about my college organization. We have well, I had been, I have been a member of many organizations in college.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those organizations is called Task Force Archi. And the objective of that organization is to help those poor people to avail of architecture services for
Mm-hmm.
them to have a proper house. So
Yeah.
the organization, under the supervision, of course, of architects who were also members of our organization when they were younger, we partnered with a Catholic cooperative in one of
Mm-hmm.
the slum areas in Manila, which is called Tondo. So you
Cool.
can actually Google that. I'll send the name here. Tondo,
Tondo.
Manila.
Tondo,
So
Manila.
that place is known to be a slum area, and it's a high density residential area. So what the cooperative does is there are families who they grant loans for constructing their house, but the people who construct their house are the family who will live in that house.
Mm.
Okay? So because they don't have money and they're really literally taking out a loan from the Catholic cooperative to
Mhm.
buy the building materials, not to pay for labor. So what we do in our organization is we draft plans and design houses for them. This is really socialized housing. This is not regular houses.
Mhm.
So we do that because we want to provide that service to the poor, because we
Mhm.
want people, even if they're poor, to still live in safe places.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
So that I can say is related to your question about seeing architects being in service of the poor or the middle class.
Mhm.
And I also had the opportunity with that same organization to volunteer for Habitat for Humanity. So I have been to builds like we carry construction materials,
Oh.
we get sand, we provide manual labor, we have donated also. And when I was a professional, I had also way back in 2015 when I was president of my professional chapter, I
Whoa.
had the opportunity to raise funds to donate to Habitat for Humanity
Yes.
to help them build.
Mm, yeah.
So, you can be helpful to your society in many, many ways, not just through design.
Mhm. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, I looked it up and it is like the biggest slum, yeah.
Yeah, for sure, Indonesia has also slum areas.
Yeah,
In
we have
Southeast Asia,
a
it's
lot.
a phenomenon, except for Singapore.
I think only Singapore is like the cleanest.
Yeah, because Singapore was part of Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, a remote country like Indonesia has their own country, Philippines has their
Hmm.
own country. Singapore was part of Malaysia.
Yeah. Wow. I can't imagine how they live like in these houses.
Yeah, and there are many gangs there. So you can just go inside like an outsider, then just go there and, stroll around. You cannot do
Yeah.
that. You have to know people from within.
Yeah.
But, the thing is, if you have a good heart or you have good intentions, you just present yourself truthfully and they won't harm you.
Mm, yeah, I think we need more, like truthful people. I think there's a lot of liars now. Like I think like a lot of people now is like mostly the government like taking advantage of like these kind of people.
We
Like
have the
this.
same story, don't worry. The president
Mhm.
that we have right now was the son of the former dictator.
Oh.
And I can't understand why people elect such people again.
I remember
Anyway, going back to our question.
it's going political. Oh no.
Well, it's part of our profession.
Yeah, it kind of is. So I think my next question, you already like answered it, but do you have any more like organization that like you participated in?
Yes, in the Philippines, it is required by law to join the organization which is accredited by the government for your profession. So in
Oh.
our case, the accredited profession or professional organization is the UAP. It's United Architects of the Philippines.
Mhm.
So when you pass the board exam, you automatically have to join UAP.
Oh.
And uh I was a president of my chapter way back in 2015, after which I had been active in the national level. So I have held chairmanships, and last year I was executive director for a commission which has 8 committees under it. So I just recently retired from it because I had been so active that it's time
Active.
to move on and pass the baton to the younger people.
Ah, I see, I see. That's great.
Yeah,
Wow.
actually, your professor Desta,
Hmm.
I met her because I was chairman of the Committee on Young Architects of UAP for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So and because when you're chairman of that committee, you are the one who represents Philippines to ARC Asia. And
Oh,
that's how I met Desta. She was the representative for Indonesia.
wow.
And it was during the pandemic that I met her.
Was the pandemic?
Yeah, she had a lot of webinars, and I was one of the people who gave the introduction to her webinar about UI and UX during the pandemic. Then finally, I got to see her in person because we travel around each country.
That's fun, yeah. Okay. uh, Next question. What are Okay, what architectural movement or styles you find to be the most appealing, and how has it like helped you develop your own?
All right. I'm definitely a fan of brutalist architecture and
Brutalist.
modernist architecture.
Wow, that's
Why? Yeah. Well, it's quite odd for, especially girls to want, to design or to look at brutalist structures. But then
Mm-hmm.
again, I was very inspired by Le Corbusier because he's a multifaceted architect. He's a painter. He's a like a person who looks deeply into the social problems of people, and his manner of architecture is function form follows function.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, design for people. So I'm the type of architect who primarily, I say primarily, not always, want
Mm-hmm.
the form to follow the function, not the other way around. Because I'm
Oh.
concerned about humans rather than appearances. Okay. But let me explain further later. So when you study him closely, since he's into the modernist slash international style, his
Mm-hmm.
type of architecture is not really suitable for all places on Earth. Like for example, we live in the tropics. So
Mm-hmm.
the type of architecture that he had is not 100% suitable for the type of climate and geography that we have.
Yeah,
All
it's
right?
different.
So I
Yes.
cannot say that I'm modernist. I can say that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the biggest influences in my life, Le Corbusier and
Like,
his type of thinking and the manner by which he conceptualized and thought of the different social problems, because this happened like about the time of the war, right?
oh yeah, it was.
So if you he was in like if you look at the 5 points of architecture by Le Corbusier, you would understand what I mean. If you look at his projects, he even designed one city in India. So he had
yes.
many aspirations to improve the life of people. That's what I liked about him. It's not, just art per se, even if he was a painter.
Mm-hmm.
So my second influence as an architect when it comes to design is, of course, tropical architecture.
Mm.
Designing buildings that are climate responsive. And third is, of course, designing buildings that take up less energy as possible,
Ah.
harnessing natural elements, and with the least adverse effect to our planet. So
So
in
like
short,
sustainable?
that's just the sustainable architecture. But
Architecture.
the thing is, it's so funny. People keep on dropping the name sustainable.
Yes.
So they do a lot of, strategies that when you look at it, they just keep on putting things there without really quantifying the level of sustainability.
Oh,
So, okay, for example, when I was an exchange student, I was a vocational exchange student in the United Kingdom way back 2012.
wow,
So
that's a lot.
we went to one of the developments there. There was a subdivision. So I was talking to the contractors. So we were not talking about sustainability, but we were talking about the HVAC system. We were talking about heating because they're a temperate country. They have winters. So they have heating and they have solar panels. So, being a young architect during that time, and of course the technology was different more than 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, is this sustainable? Why don't you put solar panels, etc.? Because I had a very shallow understanding of sustainability during that time. So they said, you know what, solar panels, including them in your development, does not necessarily mean that it's sustainable or green. So I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised. I said, why?
Why?
Okay, the carbon footprint of creating a solar panel is really high.
Oh,
Well,
it's high.
Okay? Yes, it is
okay.
high. But the thing is, later I'll discuss with you on the part of sustainability something about quantifying, sustainable
Mm-hmm.
strategies, all right? So let me
Yes.
just, look back at the story. So
Right.
he said, so it does not it can be a sustainable strategy, but it's not just the sustainable strategy. There are other ways of saving energy. So one
Mm-hmm.
of which is, if you are trying to heat a room or to air condition a room, if you make
Yes.
sure that there are no gaps to where there will be an escape of the coldness or the warmness, that's sustainable because you don't burn as much energy.
Mm.
So what they do, because they are so much into heating, they kind of weatherproof the houses that they make. So when you
Weatherproof?
weatherproof the houses, unlike here in Southeast Asia where we like cross ventilation and
Mm-hmm.
passive cooling,
Yes.
but the thing is, uh, imagine a refrigerator. When it's closed, it is efficient in cooling. And same
Mm-hmm.
with the oven. If the oven is closed, it's sealed, it's efficient in heating and cooking. But
Mm-hmm.
once you open it a bit, the heat dissipates,
Oh yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So if you look at the building, you're trying to heat a room or a house, then you have gaps wherein the heat can dissipate. It means you will consume more energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So the
So much.
first strategy that you have to do for in order for your building to be sustainable is try to cut down that dissipation so that you don't expend as much energy to heat the house.
Ah,
And at the
Okay.
see.
same time, if you have an air-conditioned room, as much as possible, you don't want any gaps because
Mm-hmm.
you don't want your cold air dissipating out of the room and going to another room which is a hotter temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the concept. So what the guy
Ah,
is saying is, yes, solar paneling is a sustainable strategy, but it is not the only thing that you need to do to be a sustainable building. There are different combinations for you to achieve a net zero building.
I see, I see.
So when I was young, it's like, wow, what was that? It was
Yeah.
not it wasn't taught to us in school
Yeah,
because
it was not. Yeah.
remember I entered school in 1997. I don't think you're even born that time.
Oh, nah.
1997, I was 16 years old. So that was really a long
It
time. We
was.
didn't learn about those things before. It wasn't teach in school then.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah. There's more way to like sustain energy rather than using other,
Yes. So I'm going
other
to explain to you later something about that when we come to that part of the question.
I think we can go there right now. It's okay.
All right. So this year, I was able to undergo a training workshop for Edge. So I'll type it here so you can search it. Edge and
Edge. Mhm.
DFGE, which is Designing for Greater Efficiency. Okay, so you can Google those things. Edge is a software and DFGE is the system. So
Ah.
you use Edge to design efficient for greater efficiency. So there are many ways of using softwares for sustainable design, one of which is Edge. And to use that software, of course, you need to undergo a training workshop, and you need to be certified by the, I think this was led by, I think, the European Union or something like that. But anyway,
Oh, you?
so I had opportunity to have a training workshop, and I was certified to be a teacher in school for the FGE. That's why this term, I'm handling 4 sections of tropical design. I'm incorporating Edge into teaching tropical design.
Oh.
Wow.
So
Good.
it's a complicated, it's a very long story. But what Edge is saying, there are various parameters that you can consider for your building to be a net zero building. When you say net zero, as much as possible, the least carbon footprint that you can have for that building in terms of building and in terms of operation. So for example, the first the first consideration is where on earth are you located, because it will determine the amount of sunlight and the sun path that you're going to have. And of course, the climate.
Yeah,
So
of
there is
course.
already data input. So you would type there, you would choose what suits your site anywhere in the world. Then there are different parameters like water consumption, type of concrete used, type of cooling systems, type of bathroom fixtures, like what type of flush, what type of faucet, etc., etc. So you would see that as you manipulate the data that you input, the energy consumption, energy use, or operational consumption will be computed. So with those, you adjust your parameters so you are able to design a building that has the least amount of carbon footprint. It's not that easy. You have to have a good understanding of architecture and all the systems. So it's the professional who uses it, not really students.
It's
And
more
even
professional.
the design of your building, you also input it because it is the footprint, the facades. It's you have to input it into the software so that you can compute, because even the lengths of the facade and what the facade is facing, which side of the sun, which direction, that also figures into the computation. So for example, which is most energy efficient depending on location? Is it a deep floor plan or is it a long and narrow floor plan? Of course, in the tropics, we know that the sides of the building that has the most amount of sun, meaning the afternoon sun and the morning sun, which the hottest axis is east-west. I mean, for South, of course, it will vary a bit per country, but for Southeast Asia, it's essentially the east-west. And if you look at the sun path, it's east to the south, then down to the west.
West is.
It's not 90 degrees. It's a bit
Offset.
offset. So there are really many factors that can make your building sustainable. And that's not just about, plastering some green wall, putting solar panels, etc., etc. Actually, in the Edge software, you can compute the amount or the floor area of the solar panel that you have to put depending on the amount of power that you want to supply. Is it fully off the grid, or is it half solar panel, half coming from the electric company? So there are many things that you can manipulate when you use Edge.
Interesting. I think it's the first time I know the software. It's for professionals, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because if you're just a student and you don't have a good grasp of all of the things, like if you don't finish your building utilities, your design, etc., it will be harder for you to use. You can use it by all means, but it will be quite hard because you don't have an understanding of all of the things that goes into a building yet.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. That's
They
really
must
cool.
have experience.
Yeah. And it's also, yeah, it's important that you have work experience because you won't have a clue what's going on if you don't understand all of this.
Of
There's
course. Okay. So, you want to go to the next question?
Yeah, sure. You just keep asking questions. That's fine.
I thought, I mean, if you want to, like continue from that part, it's okay.
It's okay. You just let it flow freely. You can ask your questions
Yeah.
anytime.
It's a bit different from like, wait, it's kind of the same almost, but like, what architectural style, like, do you have encountered the most, like, in your career?
Okay, I live in the capital of the Philippines, so it's a
Mm-hmm.
very cosmopolitan city. And with any cosmopolitan city, you would expect that there's a myriad of different styles. There are styles that trying to imitate the international style or cities abroad. There are styles that are truly Filipino. There are styles that trying to imitate the Zen Japanese way, but of course it doesn't really translate. So there's a
Mm,
lot of kitsch, meaning there's a lot of imitation, but it's not really true to the classical manner of doing those particular styles. Like
yeah.
to put it bluntly, it's a bastardized
Oh.
type of style. That's common in any Southeast Asian country. So like if you
Yeah.
go to Bangkok and you go to Manila, the cities look very similar.
Oh, very similar.
Very
very,
similar.
very
Mm,
similar.
wow. Okay. Yeah. A project do you want to discuss? Like you have like give us a rundown on your most liked and disliked projects.
Well, my most disliked project was a spa when I
That's
was
all.
yeah, a spa in well, I had a project in one of the oldest membership clubs in the Philippines. So
Mm.
the people who go there are, the very old rich elite type of people.
Ah, yeah, I
So
noticed.
in my early career as an architect, I had to make a spa for them.
Mm.
And the reason why I dislike the project is because the client kept on changing his mind, and I had to
Oh.
do like more than a dozen revisions, and there are about 3 to 4 schemes per revision to think
Mhm.
it's a very small space. So that's the reason why I dislike it. Because when you're an architect, as much as you have this grand plan or you have this, fixed ideas and aspirations for your design,
Mhm.
truth of the matter is when you're dealing with clients, the client is king. So
Yeah.
if you want to design in a brutalist manner and he doesn't want it, you cannot
Yes,
design in that manner. So
it's
if
so
you
Mhm.
hard.
want to say design in this manner, but in a business point of view, the client says that that's not feasible for me to earn this much, you have to adjust it. You will have to
Mhm.
make some compromises. So when you see a building, rarely does an architect have a client that gives him the 100% freedom to express his
Ah,
architectonics.
right.
You will have to adjust because
Yeah,
they're
of course.
clients and you're designing for them and they'll be the one to use it. So you really have to to adjust
Yeah.
to them.
When they're kings, I mean they hired us, so
Yeah, so it's really a profession of compromises.
yeah.
But on
There's
the other hand, one of
Mhm.
the projects that I really, really like was designing a senior high school.
Mm.
yeah,
So it's one of the projects in that compound. So we designed for, you know, a school system. We designed a senior high school because they wanted to be accredited to provide senior high school services. All right.
Mhm.
So I had really fun with it because the client was easy to talk to. He was very receptive of our things. And we were able to do a lot of, our expression in terms of architecture. They were supportive of it. And when you look at the plan, it's very pragmatic, straight to the point, very practical. And one of the best features that I like about it, number one, is the butterfly roof. And the reason why we had that is because there were large trees in the site right beside it,
Mm-hmm.
and there were a lot of leaves falling to the roof.
Oh.
But since it's a 4-story building, because 3 stories above ground, one basement, not
Mm-hmm.
really basement, but like, because the site was sloping,
Oh, it
so
was
like
low.
it's half exposed, in
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah.
lower grade.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be hard to maintain if we just put some gutters. So what we did,
Mm-hmm.
when you have that butterfly roof, this
Mm-hmm.
area, the valley where it meets, it's actually walkable. It can fit a human. So they
Oh.
can easily sweep off the leaves.
Ah, I understand. Yeah.
So we were glad that the client was receptive to that design feature, because it
Mm-hmm.
was really practical. And
Yeah.
we were able to put, sunshades, because the stair was on that side where it was very hot. So we were able to, it's outdoor, but
Mm-hmm.
we were able to put sunshades, and all of the corridors were passively cooled. So it
Mm-hmm.
was, a good exercise in tropical design, which I really, really like. It's not a net zero building. It's not a green rated building, but definitely, to as much as we can, we tried to, design it climate responsive to the tropics.
Mm, yeah.
Yes.
That's really cool. Where's the senior high school?
It's located about 80 to 100 kilometers north of Metro Manila.
Oh, it's kind of far.
Yes, it's quite far. So I have to drive 4 hours by car going there to go to
Yeah.
my meetings.
Wow. Can we have the name?
The name is
I'm quite
wait, what's their
interested.
name? Well, it's a Catholic. It's interesting because the compound where it was built in was within the compound of one of the important Catholic churches in the Philippines.
Oh.
Okay, the name of the church is, I'm going to type it. You can Google this. So that's the name of the church. It's the Basilica of Our Lady of Manawag. Even if you just type that, it's going to pop out. Then the school is, what's the name again? It's Letran.
Letra?
Letran. Yeah, so
Wow.
that's the new school. Wait, I'll try to, while you Google it, I'll try to look for a picture. Well, I no, no, never mind, because it's so deep into my files, I can't
Wow.
immediately access it. But it's there.
Wow. It's really cool.
So Letran is a school system all over the Philippines. So there's in Manila, there's in different provinces. So we
Mm,
built the senior high school for this particular site, Letran, Manawag, Pangasinan.
mm-hmm.
If I find well, actually it was finished during the pandemic, so
Wait,
I
what?
wasn't able to take the actual photo. I only have, I think,
Mm,
perspectives. If I find it, I'll email it to you.
mm-hmm.
So that's one of my favorite projects. And another is in the same compound, we designed a housing for the nuns right
Oh,
right
we're not.
behind the church.
Oh.
So for a long time, the nuns were living off-site. They would have to travel just to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, some of the nuns, they manage the school. They work for the school. So
Oh.
finally, we built a house for the nuns, and they have particular requests. Like, for example, we have to have a lot of laundry sinks because the nuns wash their clothes at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
we needed a huge laundry area so that all of the nuns would have their own sink where they
Yeah,
could wash their
yeah.
clothes. And of course, a place to hang, so that was located in the top floor. Then we have
Mm,
areas for them to entertain guests.
mm-hmm.
So they're not monks. They are none who mingle with ordinary people like us. So they could
Oh.
entertain guests. And we also designed a chapel because they also
Mhm.
hold mass within their house. And what I like about it, because the site was very narrow
Oh, it's
and we
narrow.
had to build the chapel. So what we did was we made the chapel face the beautiful rosary garden.
Mhm.
And,
Wow.
and when you're inside, we try to give you the feeling of being in a very small
Wow,
Gothic
small Gothic.
chapel.
Mhm.
Yes, because if you look at Gothic architecture, most of it is very tall inside,
Mhm.
slim, with thin windows, pointed arches. So we
Oh,
try to
yeah,
give
yeah, yeah.
that effect in that particular chapel. So I really like that chapel. Well,
Ooh.
to give you perspective, 90% of Filipinos are Roman Catholics. So you would always
Oh.
hear me saying Catholic, Christian, because 90% of us are Christians. Only about 3% are Muslims.
Oh, it's
Mm.
very diverse. Yeah.
Yes.
So the majority is Catholics.
Yes. The majority is Catholic, and that's because we were colonized by Spain for more than 300 years.
Oh,
So
I,
because they were Catholics, we became Catholics.
oh.
If you specialize, say, in boutique design, go for it. Be very good at it. If your specialty is product development, or you are an inventor, you are an architect scientist, then go specialize on it. So people will get you because you are an expert on that. It's not because you are a jack of all trades. Okay? So for example, big firms. There are big firms who specialize in institutional architecture or hospital architecture or resort design. Like for example, Popo, he's really an award-winning designer and he has very good resort projects. So people get him because of that competency. So my advice for you is when you find your niche, you try to focus and be good at that.
Understand.
All right?
That
Mhm.
it?
Okay. That's
All
what I
right.
can share with you. I'm too talkative. It took us 1.5 hours.
It was such a long time.
You know, my other friend, Abhishek from Nepal, they only took 40 minutes, but I'm so talkative. It took us 1.5 hours.
It's
I mean, it's fine. It's really fun though. It's really
All
fun
right.
talking to you, Miss.
Yes.
I hope you learned something from me.
A lot
Well,
of
of course.
them.
So, do you still have any questions or what?
Mm, I think that's all. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Most welcome.
It's really fun.
Please,
Thank
please
you.
send my kind regards to my friend Desta. She's a really good friend.
okay.
Nice.
And it's totally different from Indonesia.
So, can we take a group picture?
Oh
How do
yeah, the
you,
Sure.
Okay.
so how do we do that?
I how do I send it to you? Okay, okay.
Ah,
Let's try.
you know,
Let's try. In three, two, one, cheese. Okay, that's good.
okay.
Daifa. Before you send it to the group, can you send ke
Hmm?
gue dulu, send ke kita dulu sebelum dikirim ke grup yang banyak orang itu, lihat hasilnya dulu.
Okay, okay. Wait. Let me send it.
Okay.
Wait a s-
Itu nggak apa-apa, send aja.
Yes. Udah. Wait. Miss, can you download it? Wait, let me find it first. Mm, there it is.
Yeah, I sent something.
Okay. I
Okay.
resend it too. I send one too.
Okay, I'll download it. Still loading. So, I don't know. What did you learn from me today?
A lot.
So, what? Oh, her video is quite dark. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
know.
I think I learned
All
a
right.
lot today. A lot of information to take in.
Actually, yes. This semester, I'm teaching tropical design and planning 3. So, that's about urban and regional planning. So, it's a higher level subject. So, it
Oh,
means you already have to know a lot of subjects before you can take those things.
yeah. Oh my god.
It's fun. Actually, it's fun teaching. Like, I, because I was so busy in the past years, this is the only opportunity for me to start teaching. And, I don't, there's no turning back. I'm having a lot of fun. So that's also one of the career paths that you can take.
I see. I don't think I'm good at teaching, so I'll rethink. Okay. Thank you for your time. It was amazing.
And
My
thank
name's
you for
Becca.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I think I just hope you learn something.
have a lot
Of
of
course.
experience than me.
So good luck. I hope you become good architects who always puts the welfare of people on top of everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
I hope
You
we
so
can meet again.
Yeah, maybe. If someday I visit Indonesia, why not?
Why not?
That's not a far possibility.
Let me know.
Yeah, sure. I'll let
Yeah.
Desta know.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.